I mean, at this point, no point in even racing. This fucking game is so dog shit. How do you have so much dirty air and no slipstream? Like, use your brain. Who's coding this game, man? No one wants to watch this shit. How brain dead are the people that code this shit? Been saying for 4 months there's fucking no slipstream and shit ton of dirty air, and they don't give a shit. If you cannot fix something that simple in 4 months, you should be straight fired from your job. It's so obviously an issue. You cannot overtake. The only way is if you got 80% more battery, or if someone makes a mistake. 1 second tire advantage, can't overtake. Yeah, man, what are we doing, man?
Yo, JD here, and as you can see, we are back with another video. And yeah, you can see by that little intro there and just the title of this video, this is going to be another one of those ones where I really want this to be just really an open discussion, because again, I think we really get a true consensus of what people's thoughts are of the game. Yes, people, you could say even like myself, and especially like some like F1 esport drivers who have had many years experience of the game, they can always tell you your thoughts, but sometimes that perspective is going to be very different from someone who is maybe completely new to a series, someone who's not quite as experienced, because I just really want to get a feeling of what people actually think about F1 25. Do they actually enjoy playing this game? And yeah, really the trigger of this is that I have seen quite a few people I know personally, and people also I don't know, actually just decide to hang up their cap on this game. So people like Carl24, good friend of mine, I race with him, one of the best drivers on PlayStation. Despite him winning a lot of races, he's actually retired from league racing just for a little while, because I've had a lot of discussions with him. He just doesn't find it enjoyable. And obviously we heard from the likes of Mr. Jarno Opmeer, we hear from a lot of other esport drivers as well if you watch their streams on a regular basis. The game is just not rewarding, and again, I know people are going to have different opinions of that, so please put down what you think of the game. If you really enjoy it, please let me know if you do, and why you enjoy it as well. I think that's something that's going to be very important. But yeah, I really want to treat this as a platform. This is potentially a video I might even send to Codemasters themselves, because yeah, speaking for myself personally, and I'll be going to thoughts of what I actually think of the game and what I think the issues are. For myself, I haven't really been motivated to play this game. You might even see through the lack of content that I've been doing as well, I just haven't really enjoyed playing it. And it's not about really results for me. I've had some good results, I've had some poor results, but I just feel when you're playing a game like this, it has to be rewarding in some way. And I'm not saying it needs to be made easier or anything like that, but I will get into exactly what I think. So please don't take this as a rant. I just really want to have an honest discussion about this game. But yeah, I've seen people online saying to the likes of F1 esports drivers, simply stop playing. But that is really not the answer, because with the F1 game and just the F1 as a sport, Drive to Survive, things like that, you are always going to have a demand for people playing this game, some new people joining the game all the time. So unless 50% of the player base decided not to play, or F1 esports drivers decided to do a little bit of a boycott, although if they did do that, you would simply just have some other drivers take their place because of the money and the benefits of being in the spotlight. So unfortunately, that isn't the answer. What really frustrates me about this game I'm going to say for the past 5 years, since F1 2020, which was probably the last F1 game I played, which I actually was excited to play, if I'm being perfectly honest, is that Codemasters just seem to be completely immune to feedback. And if you take a look of the game sales, or if you look at the player base since F1 2020 or F1 22 on the screen, you can see there is a very, very clear decline. And yeah, this is just based off Steam, which is the platform for F1 esports, by the way. There's been a drop of around, on average, about 62% of players since F1 22, which was a pretty horrific game. If anyone did play that, you'll know exactly what I mean. So for an industry as big as F1, wanting to grow the realms of F1 esports, you'd think the number of people who are watching real F1 and playing the games and stuff, it's almost impossible for it to not succeed. This is very, very concerning, and just shows it's not just the competitive players, but it's just the overall player base. People are losing interest in this series, and I think there are many, many issues with this game. There's many I could list, because effectively we have had a copy and paste of this game since, I'd say, we've had the same game engine since 2016, but I think really since F1 21, I think it's really just been a copy and paste for almost half a decade, simply just the aesthetics that have been updated. But for me personally, I think the big issue of this game is really just the dynamics of the game and just creating a rewarding experience. So trying to be as respectful as possible, but I think, I hope a lot of you guys will know what I mean. A lot of these issues mainly apply to the more competitive players, or the more competitive player you are, or the more you are going against people who are on equal competition, equal level to you. Obviously, the likes of F1 esports and even the leagues I do, most drivers are only separated by tenths of a second or even less per lap. And very simply, I think the huge issue of this game, something I loved at the start of this game, was the introduction of the dirty air effect, which was great. That's something we haven't had really for quite a while. And if we did have it, it certainly wasn't that strong. The big issue of this game is that the slipstream, the ratio from the dirty air to slipstream, really should be like a 1-to-1 ratio. So the closer you get, the more dirty air you get, but also the closer you get, the more of a slipstream effect you get. And you can see by the clips in this video, at the start of this video, there is practically no slipstream effect whatsoever. And the problem with that is that it makes it practically impossible to overtake. And the only way you are going to overtake, so if you're an F1 esports, the only way you're going to overtake drivers is if you have a huge pace advantage, which you are not going to have on a 1 to 2 lap tyre delta, or you have to do a massive tyre delta, so you have to probably go quite long in the race. As we saw with Jarno, Opmeer and Jeddah at PSGO yesterday, went quite long into the race. And yeah, if you can maintain good pace, then you should be rewarded with a very good tyre delta. So he came out the pits, managed to catch up to the lead group, and the longer you go into the stint, the more the tyres do equal out on this game compared to other drivers, even if they pitted 5 to 6 laps earlier than you. But the problem is, and you can see by watching his stream, is that you just cannot overtake. And yes, there can be things in the setups and things like that, but with F1 esports, I can tell you now, there isn't going to be a huge difference in wing levels, maybe 5 to 7 absolutely max for like the front and the rear wing. But if the car ahead has a DRS it's practically impossible to overtake. And with F1 Esports, pretty much everyone, the whole field is within the DRS train as well. So it makes it practically impossible to overtake. You might be able to overtake through the first part of your stint when you come out the pits, but then eventually, because you're going to get undercutted by so many people, you will get stuck in the train. Last 5 laps of the race, that's pretty much there and done. And the only exciting races we really have in the likes of F1 Esports is if we have like a huge tie delta, or if we have like a 2-stop race, something like that, like a Brazil, Mexico and things like that, where there's very, very big differences in the tie delta. That's where it's a lot more interesting. Or if you have tracks like Zandvoort where the hards take a long time to heat up and the undercut isn't huge or anything like that. So it's just makes the racing really not exciting. And for me, it just doesn't make it fair. And I know some people will say, well, just be faster. Then I don't think you realise, with this dirty air effect, you cannot get close enough. And with no slipstream effect, and the car ahead of you has the DRS, it is pretty much impossible to overtake. And if you did overtake them, then you'd be putting away like half a second a lap. So it makes it impossible. And for me, it just doesn't make it fair whatsoever. And I think that's why a lot of the competitive drivers are just not playing this game anymore. And with that is going to spread word of mouth. And yeah, I think why we have seen a big decline in the F1 games in terms of its player base is Codemasters just don't listen. They just do not listen to feedback. And I think that is the biggest problem we have with this series, is that they're willing to do updates on the aesthetics of the game and adding things to make it more attractive for people to purchase the game, but they're not actually improving the dynamics, because how hard is it to increase the slipstream effect? And I think a lot of this is down to the AI, because if they do that, they have to change the AI. It's going to make a huge difference there, because career mode is a big selling point for them. And yeah, it just doesn't make it good to play. And real life, I know a lot of people say, well, it's hard to overtake in real life, but you've got to remember, in real life they have realistic performance. The cars are not equal cars in real life, but in this game, the slipstream effect, it practically doesn't exist, and the closer you get, you don't get more of that effect whatsoever. So yeah, I'm just kind of at a point now where I'm not really motivated to play the game as well. But I really want to hear what your thoughts are. Do you agree with Jarno? What do you think needs to happen? Because for me, I've said this many times, I think we need some fresh ideas in this game. We need a different developer who has passion for racing games, for making a substantially actually good game. They're actually going to listen to their player base, the feedback, and I'm not expecting perfection or anything like that, but someone who does like iRacing or Assetto Corsa, Automobilista, those kind of developers who actually care about the product of their game. I just think it's a bit of a joke now, honestly. So I really want to hear what you think of the problems of this game, and how can we bring this F1 series back to life effectively. So those are just my thoughts. I really want to hear yours, and I will catch you very, very soon. Peace.